Nowadays, we cannot just stop and rely on AI, because one day then we would lose the connection between you and AI. You might lose the comprehension of how it works. My name is Artsem and I'm data quality engineer at EPAM. It's not a classic quality assurance specialization, and although we share a lot in common, like testing techniques, the same test artifacts, and we even create the same bugs by structure, my main focus is on data platforms, a system that uses that data. And I actually find it curious that my role sits on top of the business and value, so we help our clients to extract value from the data they have, and we help them make decisions based on that data, build reports, and so on. I joined EPAM as a junior functional testing engineer, but after half a year I realized that I don't want only verify everything manually. I want to dive into details, and I actually want to enhance my skills in terms of utilization of programming languages, SQL language, automation, and so on. And I joined internal campus program, data engineering laboratory. It's kind of our internal university, and it took me half a year to go over the educational process. After that, within, let's say, 3 months, EPAM found my first project, which I joined. It was project related to some oil and gas domain, and we were elaborating analytical system. So I had a chance to practice my SQL knowledge, get acquainted with test automation and production environment, and so on. And that experience actually helped me to boost my level to the middle specialist. So after almost 1 year and a half, I got my middle title and changed my project actually. Within several POCs projects, I would say there were 3 of them, I grew up to senior specialist within 2 years. And now I'm working on my current project for the last 2 years in title of senior data quality engineer. Actually, I clearly remember that moment which led me to AI journey, and it was tied to the release of ChatGPT 3.5. And I was part of the team that was challenged to explore the possibility and how we can leverage use of Gen AI and that chat to help us optimize our routine work and so on. And one of the tasks or demo I was showing was tied to analysis of knowledge base article that we have to build some final requirements for change management and development team with analysis and evaluation of that requirements so we can use and share them across other teams. And the second task was tied to automation of script creation for our framework, which means we, as an input, put only the name of target system and tables we want to automate, and we expect from the chat to provide us the whole configuration script, which actually was JSON file or had JSON format, so with only 2 or 3 parameters as an input. And it seemed that it's quite easy task nowadays, but back in the day, it was clearly visible that the communication and integration of AI can leverage and help with our routine and manual work. I look at AI in layers. What I mean is that there are separate tasks I deal and use AI with, and the first one is just basic one. I use ChatGPT every day for my very simple tasks, which are related to email correspondence, let's say preparation of some responses in English because it's not my native language. Also making summaries based on meetings or sessions I had in Teams and so on. The second one is tied to my current work as a data quality engineer, and there is such task like test generation when you deal with migration projects, or you just need to verify software and assure quality within some software or application without production data, because you can't receive it because of some security reasons or so on. And later on, it might take several days to prepare the test data you can use within those applications, but now it's just enough to explain AI and define patterns it should follow to generate any amount of data you need for testing purposes. Later on, actually, EPAM elaborates our own tool that we can utilize now. It's named Test Generator, and we have it on our Solution Hub, so all the details are there. Also, we have this Dial platform, which is actually quite convenient UI platform where you can pick any model you want to. If you don't need ChatGPT, GPT model, you can use Llama models from Meta, you can use Gemini if you deal with images and so on. And so you can create your separate conversations, and you actually even can configure outputs. You can affect outputs of models with those parameters like temperature, amount of value, size of output, and so on, creativity level or temperature, how we call it. So you can configure how close to reality or creative answers of AI would be, and that definitely helped me in my everyday work as well. After that, we also have this great, I would say, elite platform at EPAM, which actually differentiator from Dial platform, since you can use it not to chat with AI, but you can build your own assistant there or agent, and you can tie or connect this platform to other services like Jira, for instance, knowledge base, even just database, retrieve data from those sources and use them to make even some decisions. Or I can ask him to analyze some requirements, based on the output, create ticket in my Jira and assign it to me, and all that stuff we deal as just communication within a chat without even row of the code. QA workflow also changed, and those code reviews and refactoring activities, for instance, they are part of that workflow. For instance, I've prepared my test artifacts. After that, my team lead or other responsible person should review them. And now it's not all the time the step. AI can perform those activities and check, for instance, naming conventions. Yep. So revision from AI side is part of that, our workflow. Also, we use in our workflow, we prepare test result reports, and that artifact is also mandatory part in any quality assurance flow. Their preparation, calculation of those measurements are part of AI. It doesn't require me to calculate it manually if I can just provide the parameters we need to calculate, and based on that parameters, AI provide me with final summaries, conclusions, and even suggest me steps what I need to do to improve it. Comparison and some analytical tasks. What if we can forget that's what was in my previous sprint, and I want to compare those, those grooming sessions as part of software development lifecycle, those agile ceremonies, we all have to participate. AI help you to summarize and make analysis of transcriptions, assign related tasks to every engineer, and so on. So, in terms of, to summarize the change of the QA workflow, it means that the workflow is the same, but AI is our copilot on every step of this workflow. Once it was clear that AI is my copilot and can assist me with my routine work, I actually started to use it everywhere I can. For instance, part of my work, and I'm sure that part of any developer, any quality assurance specialist, project manager, or BI specialist is dealing with documentation. And it's not the case when you just want to analyze or summarize some documentation. You want to prepare it. And let me provide you an example. We all deal with source to target data mapping documents. I mean, that's documents that show you how data flow change from one layer to another, and AI can build it based on diagram that architecture can provide to you. Another example is dealing with traceability matrix, when we want to get comprehension of how many requirements we actually covered with our manual scripts, test cases, or automation scripts. And all those calculations, if your prompt is clearly formed and created, so you can deal it in automated way, where as an input you put only new requirements every time, or add some, expand them, and the final document is expanded as well. So we can utilize it for that part. Also, it's tied to my dealing with code. As I mentioned, in my routine work, I use structured query language, Python language, and even we build some custom frameworks for data profiling, reconciliation activities, and so on, or even just classic quality assurance UI verifications, with Selenium tools and so on. Even if we're not talking about the point that we ask AI to write the whole code or the whole script for us, you definitely can use it to refactor, make code reviews, and integrate the AI in your CI/CD workflow. When we're building our quality gates, it also took quite a time to understand, should we take the next step, or we should stop the whole process and notify responsible person. And that the part where AI can jump in and take that work for itself, and you can spend release time for other activities. In terms of quality gates, CI/CD comes in place, and some unit testing. I would say that the great point when AI can elaborate or take unit testings on AI side, on its side, because verify that code works properly without background of business facts, specs, requirements factors, but just my code works correctly, and then I can start or trigger CI or CD process. That's the point where AI can perform some basic unit verifications, for instance, and based on that result, make a decision for you if it worth to proceed and, let's say, deploy your code to a new environment. And if previously those quality gates were dependent on the code I should write, now I can just provide I had to write two codes. One, developer write the code to perform functionality of software, one unit of the software, and then I have to write the code that can verify the output of that piece of or unit of the code and compare outputs, my expected output to that. Now AI can write the code for verification, verify the outputs, and provide you with the decision if it's worth to move on, or we should stop the whole process and notify someone, or just skip that part of code, or form report based on that, and so on. For sure, it's the question of integration. AI cannot chat by itself, cannot do it, but now I'm talking more about agents, assistants, and more deeper comprehensions of Gen AI tools and solutions. But nowadays, for me, the whole that area is Gen AI. And regarding moving of AI into CI/CD flow and automation, I would also mention that even now we have the Gherkin language. When the test script doesn't possess the code directly, but we use general phrases like when user opens the site, then we expect it to click that button, and so on. So we use that pattern to write our test automation scripts even nowadays. But see, what if the Gherkin language can expand and evolve to CI/CD workflows, to pipeline changes and substitute all those if-else trees and patterns to human-readable text, when not only engineers can comprehend and understand what happens under the hood, but any involved client, user, or even the person who is not aware about the general engineering flow or how that or that automation or tool is working under the hood. That's amazing. And in terms of real impact and acceleration of the whole process of my everyday task, there is such activity or such type of projects when quality engineer should test and evaluate migration from one system to another. For instance, we have used Oracle system, but now we want to use cloud technologies, so we want to move everything there. And that activity also supposed to have changes in objects, in flow, or in code. What I mean is, for instance, we have procedures which are written in PL SQL language in Oracle, but we can't use the same language in cloud BigQuery system. Or we had some primary keys, but there is no such object as primary key in new cloud technology system, in BigQuery I mean. And AI can help you assess your old solution, find all that gaps, match it to the requirements or possibilities of BigQuery service, and highlight you where changes should be applied, and even provide you the code that can assure that those changes are going to go smoothly. And in addition to that, nowadays EPAM has our own solution or our own tool, which is called MigWiser, which we can use, and it actually powered by AI, and we can use that tool to perform the whole process of migration and evaluation of migration with the use of just one tool, and all those activities starting from pre-screening and analysis of all system, comparing it to our target system, elaboration of the final migration plan, and performing of test execution in order to compare if all objects and all data from old system comes to new one and there are no duplicates, we didn't lose any data, and so on, and all those activities can be performed by EPAM's MigWiser tool. I see that AI, maybe not now, but in short term, will substitute automation in classical way how we see it. So nowadays, to create test script and execute it, I need to do it on my own, but we already have examples when AI can change script. I mean, if on UI web page some logo was changed, AI is able to identify that change, identify test cases that are associated with those with that logo or page, and adjust those test scripts and test cases, and execute them after that and find if there are any bugs or not. And that whole approach I've described was not, it was hard to imagine that it's possible even 1 year ago, but it's clearly visible that it's possible, and we already have positive cases nowadays. Does it mean that AI is going to take our job? And definitely not, but your job is going to take the engineer who is using AI, because it's all about the time. I see the time you spend to verify the flow I described manually is more time consuming than to do it with AI, is not so convenient like to do it with AI. And imagine the case that in your team you have some engineer with strong hard skills or engineering skills, and you have someone who has good comprehension of business aspect of the business domain and so on, and you need someone who can connect you and use terms that both of you can communicate and understand clearly. And that's where AI comes. You can take very challenging script to AI, and it can explain what this code or script performs to business people who doesn't use even the same terms like variables, programming languages, so on. So we have a bridge between business and technical aspects with the use of AI. And also in terms of automation, I can provide the following example. In data quality, we have that activity like data profiling, when some software or tool evaluate data and gather some statistics about data. So later on some timeline frame, I can assess changes in data. For instance, today we have 1 million rows in some table. After that, or next day, we have 2 million rows. But one day we have only 10 rows. And it doesn't mean that it's bug or something wrong with the software. It means that I need to look at the issue and analyze what happens. Maybe the data source changed, maybe schema changed, and so on, and adapt my test scripts based on that analytical outputs. And nowadays I see how AI can perform those self-healing activities when it track changes of data based on my example, suggest improvements and apply them, so later on new outputs are evaluated by AI again. And in terms of who is owning AI, I would say in terms of quality assurance, it's quality assurance team. Why? Because we still have to revise outputs of AI. Even it sounds quite impressive for me what it can perform, it doesn't mean that it performed that activities 100% without error. That's not the point, and here is even the term like human as a judge, or where you need to revise outputs. But once again, nowadays when we use another AI models to judge outputs of some framework which use Gen AI, because we can provide patterns and examples of what to verify, how to verify, and so on. And what we need to do is to analyze, make conclusions, and make decisions based on those outputs. I would say that capacity of the team reduced indefinitely, but I can't say that only. I mean, there are lots of dependencies because it depends on the challenge of the task and how complicated is the task, software, system, even website, but it's possible. Let's imagine that we have big challenging project where we need to build some complicated system, application, or software, and the quality of communication of one engineer and AI would depend on how clearly all the aspects of that software are described, how clearly requirements are prepared, and so on. Definitely, we can allocate additional capacity to revise documentation, because after that AI would generate all related stuff for us. But there are dependency, and actually there is such term, do we need it? Maybe it's cheaper to use 3 engineers and AI than use 1 senior specialist and AI. I mean, there are cost questions, there are challenges in terms of complication of the software we deal with and the task actually we're dealing with. Because once again, if the task is summarizing or making some sentiment analysis, which AI can perform well, is one question. But if we're stepping into domain where AI model didn't deal with, it's the second question. So maybe we would spend more time to fine-tune our model, to connect it to our complicated system, to teach AI to understand our requirements clearly than 3 experienced engineers would do it even without AI. So it's complicated philosophical question, but I see that definitely it's possible. I would provide you an example with test generation that I faced actually. And that's the way how we related efficiency of AI. If we have a table with 50 attributes and we need 1 million rows of data which can cover 4 different cases, the preparation of those data sets manually would take 3 days. And I can bet that with AI I can perform the same task with 1 day. So I would say our acceleration is, or we save up something around 30% of time. I would say that AI agent or AI assistant copilot is separate team member of any quality assurance or development team. And it means that even if we have 3 persons in quality team, it means that the same work can be performed by 2 human beings and 1 AI technology or AI assistants and so on. And also I would to add or make some note regarding use of AI. I mean, even we already see that it's possible to use it in almost every domain in any project based on the complexity of the project. I mean, when we're talking about the reduction of quality assurance or development teams, it's not so straightforward because we need to assess the complexity, challenges, and what is more important domain. For instance, some banking systems or law-dedicated areas cannot implement AI for now, even if they know that it can help them, but based on security concerns, based on the sensitivity of the data they share, they cannot use AI, because when you put something into the model already can get some information and save it. So we need to build firewalls, even from perspective that someone can get the data some human being don't want to share, or amount or information about transactions, about details about your contract, or details about your health, and so on. So the challenges also might take some place. I faced different variety of failures, and actually nowadays it's also part of my work, because there is such concept like garbage in, garbage out. And AI is not some magical stuff. Actually, it's software which use data to produce outputs. If data AI consumed or was trained on had poor data quality, the output is going to be poor as well. And the question we're trying to tackle now, so how to verify those outputs? And that's the point where quality assurance is changed as well. If we're talking about the point when AI is going to perform our automation or manual work, then we need to perform testing of AI models and outputs of AI. So it's just substitution of the domain, let's say. And such fails like hallucination, reverse course in AI, it's typical cases when I would provide you an example. When you ask model who is mother of Tom Cruise, he can provide you an output. But if you ask the model again who is son of that woman, AI can provide you an output, but it would be just imaginary person or just wrong person. Or in other ways, if you are looking for some certain policy code like ACO code, I mean worldwide known, AI knows the pattern how that code is built, but it doesn't mean that the code AI is providing to you is correct and actually exists. That's what we need to assure and verify. And also there are some security aspects we need to verify as well. Materials, that there are no the point of creativity. AI is able to produce new information, let's say, but our point is we don't want some creativity in such domains like healthcare. We want to, let's say, analyze data of our patient without creativity. That's just yes or no answers and questions. And that's the point where we need to test and verify AI, and AI can fail and produce you, as we call, false positive results. Or other aspects and so on. So the point is, to sum up, AI still fails, but we see that we can clean data or articles or other information AI use to be of good quality, and then the outputs of AI is going to also be of good quality. So it's work, but nowadays AI still can fail. True. There was a project related to genomic aspects of human being, and that genomic code has special pattern and format. And for test data, AI actually generated those patterns, but they were not representing real-world cases, which means technically solution can work with my test data, but I didn't cover those like if-else statements of the code of my program, which was written by developer, to check if the behavior of our application would properly changed. And at the point when I see that I cannot rely on output of AI, because AI doesn't have notion of what is inside this pattern or code, but it can generate me like the same amount, the length, the value, and so on. That was the first value. Not obvious one, I mean, but still. And very basic one is when AI just trying to invent some new information and put it in the context, even with use of my knowledge base. For instance, if we were building some responses for question, if you ask our internal system how many vacation days I have, we do not expect just one certain answer like 26 days, because it's not true. The system should ask you in which location you are, what is your education, because for instance in Poland, based on the level of your education, amount of those vacation days might be extended or reduced. But there were cases where AI just stated that your vacation balance is 26 days, but it's not true. That's the point. So you need to see, and there are some options how we can handle that. We can use system prompts, we can adjust behavior, we can, even from perspective of verification, we can use benchmarks and ask another AI to compare this output of 26 days to our expected output, which person would provide who, or how our HR department would handle the same question. And we will see that the outputs are different, which means it's not like mistake, but it's not the output we can rely on. AI keeping me motivated in a way that it show me that I cannot stop learning. What I mean, even if I can transit part of my work to AI, I have to learn how to use AI, how to verify AI, and so on. And even let's imagine one day that the whole quality assurance job would be taken by AI, someone have to verify it, someone have to organize it. And that's the point where I need to dive into, learn again, and that keep me motivated to go with AI hand in hand. Because one day, if I don't know how to use AI, if one day I don't know how to leverage it or how configure it, I may lose my job. Once again, the guy who know. That's the point. And the second one, it's so fascinating for me when you have some discussion with someone who has a challenge with routine task, and you can provide an example how they can solve the task easily with use of AI. I have some feeling of satisfaction, It's like a friendly competition even when you know that someone might spend 3 hours of day, of our work hours, to solve the task you can solve within 1 hour with the AI. It makes me a bit exciting, and satisfied. That's the second point of satisfaction or of motivation for me. And another one is also new way. There are challenges when you can't solve the same task with different functions or different languages, and after that compare how efficient is that or that solution. Because even if we take SQL language, or Python language, the same task might be solved differently. And that's my challenge with AI. I want to speed up even more. Even I already use AI to solve the task. It's kind of riddle for me. Maybe it might be even better, even faster. And that light challenge keep me can be up to date. I read some articles related to AI. I'm trying to discover and have discussion with my peers and colleagues to learn from them as well, and so on. There are lots of materials on that topic, lots of certifications, which is also part of our job. I also participate as a mentor, and nowadays it seems that AI can also verify, let's say, some tasks, verify or even mentor and give suggestions to students and so on. But it's clearly visible for now that AI is tied to the examples of how it was solved previously. I mean, the trained data we use for the model again is someone's solution, and AI can use it or generate some new solution based on that. And that's my challenge. I mean, what if I can provide better solution, AI can use that solution, and what output we're going to have later on? So it's kind of a bit of a race, but I find it curious and fascinating for myself. That keeps me motivating. And another part that keeps me motivating is continuous monitoring. I mean, even in terms that I already mentioned, it means that human one day should sit again the monitor and see how AI performs some work activities, testing activities, or validations. But I believe that one day even those activities are going to be performed by AI, and what we as a human beings are going to be focused and concentrated on some quality architecture patterns, how more efficient build AI, which new areas we can cover with AI. And for instance, nowadays there are some security concerns because we're afraid of PII data, some sensitive information we don't want to share. One day I believe the AI would be able to convert and match everything here, so you can be focused only on architecture side without even spending time on covering those aspects, because they are going to be covered already. The key message for that interview is IT never sleeps. I mean, nowadays we cannot just stop and rely on AI, because once again, one day then we would lose the connection between you and AI. You might lose the comprehension of how it works, because once again, there is no such thing or such flow like comprehensions or connections which my mind can do, associations and so on. But I see that AI can do it faster, better. We already have the new model or release of new model of ChatGPT once or twice a year. It's quite amazing speed, So you can't sleep, and IT never sleeps. All the day we should invent, adapt, and evolve as AI evolve. The key message for quality assurance engineers is that quality matters now, and it will matter later on, with AI or without AI. So nowadays we're measuring quality of software. Maybe one day we're going just measure quality of AI. So AI is not the threat for us. It's our copilot and assistant, which is here just to help you, not to take your work, but help you with your routine. If AI is going to take that manual work from you, it doesn't mean that you need to switch over to programming languages or learn how to automate the solution. You need to learn how to use AI to make those manual activities and how to verify AI. That's the point and suggestion for you. Thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, please share it, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. And we're going forward.